Welcome to the Impact Effect podcast. I am excited today because we got Reggie in the house. Welcome, brother.
What's up, Jim? How you doing? Thank you for having me.
Of course. And as you know, we're going to jump right into it, talk a little bit about life, maybe some business, some personal growth, things like that. But the first question I ask everybody is, what does the word impact mean to you? How do you define it, and how do you show up in the world today and create impact? And I'm excited about this one because I know he's got something coming our way.
Look, I tried to not think about, I've seen some other episodes and I tried to not think too hard on this, and I wanted to see what was going to be the answer that I gave today. And so impact to me means, what does it feel like when you land on somebody's heart?
Ooh.
When you land on somebody's heart, what does that feel like, and what are you doing to create that feeling? And so I define impact as that, is touching hearts. And what I am doing today in the realm of impact, I think, impacting people through stories, impacting people through shared experiences to create humanity, to reduce the shame that we carry from our past and the things that we're not so proud of, to really highlight the beauty that is being a unique human with all our flaws and imperfections.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Where does that come from?
I think it comes from my own experiences of having a mask on for so long because of what I thought the world wanted to see from me, but then realizing that ate away at me, and then it didn't give me the humanity to be the complete human that I was. And so the world, while I was praised and applauded for the way that I showed up, it was inauthentic to me. And I couldn't live with that any longer. And I think my body and my mind was screaming at me, saying, we can't keep this up. And that resulted in, I talk a lot about mental health because it resulted in poor mental health for me in a period where I was getting, again, praise, but going through it inside.
Of course.
So, yeah, I think that's where it comes from.
It's interesting. I feel like sometimes we put up with certain things and follow certain ways until it gets to that point, right? Like that point of just, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
It's crippling me.
Yeah.
Whether it's inside, whether it's physical, right? But like you see all these kind of saboteurs come up in those time periods. It's like when your immune system's like weak, it's almost like then you feel all the germs and bacteria and it all attacks you and takes advantage of you. Was that similar to you? Was it just kind of to that boiling point?
It was. And I think you hear the breaking point, or you hear hitting rock bottom in so many people's stories. And I think that's relative. I think rock bottom looks so different for different people. It is not necessarily financial rock bottom. It's not the fact that you have nothing and you're on the side of the road. Like, that wasn't rock bottom for me. But rock bottom for me was 30 days of not sleeping and having so much anxiety and stress in my body that I couldn't formulate clear thoughts.
Wow.
And being someone who has been in business to serve others with the power of my mind and my thought, that was very challenging. And I got to a place after those 30 days, I was sitting looking around, and I had some family turmoil that came up, was a big part of that, big catalyst and triggering events that led to that. And 30 days goes by, no sleep, and just I had an experience on the floor that I never would have imagined myself in, having an anxiety attack where, start with one thought, and then I'm whispering and I'm crying and I'm laughing and I'm screaming and I'm yelling, and it's just like all over the place. And I had this out-of-body experience of just seeing myself there thinking, how in the world did you end up right there?
Wow.
Through all of the great things in life, the success.
Yep.
And I put success in quotations because, again, that too is relative, right? And if success meant having all of these things and having the career and having, so much material stuff that the world is like, this is good, but being miserable on the inside, then I don't view that as success anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was chasing for a really long time. and got applauded for that. But again, inside it was just chaos and turmoil. And so it was, and I think the lack of sleep led to, being ill and
Yeah.
not feeling just up to par of who I knew myself to be. And yeah, that was too much. And I couldn't do that a day longer.
And it was everything, right? It was
Everything.
like your whole wellness, not
Everything.
just
Yes.
health. It was
Yes.
mindset. I mean, lack of sleep is,
It kills everything.
yeah,
Like it really impacts everything because like appetite is gone. So
yep,
now I don't really want to eat anything. The creativity. I think creative wellness is something that has been an outlet for me for so long. Like I write music and I will just sit down and doodle or whatever it may be. Like that part of me couldn't create.
yeah.
And
Then frustration and anger
God,
kicks in,
yeah.
right?
And I'm sitting there just like, how can I not sit here and make the thought that I used to be able to make? How can I not connect the dots from, okay, there's this little inkling of an idea in my brain and I could make it come
Further
to fruition.
develop it, yeah,
But
yeah.
like it's just a roadblock. And that, yeah, so like so many forms of wellness where and then you see it physically. And I think if I look back at pictures of myself during that time, I would be able to notice it. Maybe other people wouldn't, but I could see the minute details
Of
that
course.
are just like you're struggling inside.
Yeah.
And I mean, even like I just catch the smile, feel the smile on my face. I'm just like, I miss that. I miss that muscle working right there. And so yeah, it's good to be on this side of it with the awareness that I have, because I think so long in my life I was operating in kind of this default mode,
Yeah.
and that was skewed by so many of the past experiences, the traumatic experiences of my life that yeah, put me in that place.
Yeah, I've been there. I mean, it's a world where you think you have success defined and you have no idea what you want, and there may be some ego, there may be some pressure, there may be some people in your life that shouldn't be.
Definitely.
There's people in your life that you think you have a deep human connection with, and they're out to get you and not necessarily support you, right? And like I've been through all that. For someone that's gone through it and made that massive change, are you still? What have you changed in your life?
Yeah.
Right? Like, are you still doing the same type of work? Are you still doing? Have you leveraged any different resources? Like, how'd you make that massive pivot? Because man, everything I know about you, I know we haven't known each other that long, but you always seem happy, and
Yeah.
that smile is always kicking, man. It's contagious, bro. I see your posts, I'm like, yeah, dude.
Appreciate
That's why I was so excited to talk.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like,
No.
we're gonna get both spectrums today.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we get to get the whole spectrum, because
Yeah.
that is important. I think what really changed for me was mindset first and foremost. Right, I had the mindset that if I, and this was probably a more subconscious level, but if I received the external validation, that was going to somehow fill a void in my body, in my mind, in my soul. And I think how I got to that point was through therapy.
Yeah.
I had lived so much in my life in the stigma that many people carry around mental health and therapy and what that looks like, and viewing that as a weakness. And again, like seeing myself on the ground, I'm just like, no, this feels weak to me, in knowing that there are resources out there to help me, and not having the courage, or not even not being able to break down that stigma enough to go find those resources. So the day after,
Was that from you growing up? Like,
think so.
Did you grow up? I mean, I grew up in a place
Yeah.
where it was like,
oh yeah, like
you-
grow
you-
up and
you're gonna go
you're
see
crazy.
a shrink.
Yeah, you're crazy.
You're a
yeah,
little
you're
bitch.
something.
Yeah. And,
Like-
and multiply that by
Right.
the top opportunities to be more aggressive in that literature.
That's
but-
the truth. Yeah. So many terms that came after your A.
Yeah.
Because you're seeking help. And I think, I play sports. I've been physically fit on the outside, I think, for most of my life. And there was never an issue for me to go and get my Achilles repaired, or, get some work done on muscles that were injured and things like that. But when it came to a vital organ, one of the most vital, if not the most, my brain, that was viewed in a different way. And so I had to break that that thought pattern down and just really break those cycles of viewing it that way, because we're a whole thing, and like the neck up doesn't get excluded from health.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was that. And so like it took a lot of courage. It took a lot of courage to, one, be vulnerable about my experience with anyone. I think the first person that I truly felt comfortable in sharing that was my wife,
Yep.
girlfriend at the time, but then wife, who I think because she showed so much love without judgment, that was a safe space for me to share that. And that helped me get to the place where I was able to share that with a complete stranger, being a therapist who's now, one of my favorite people in the world.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that was a big part of it. Different people came and they went. And then different environments, just surrounding myself with people and places that really cater to my soul and feel good to my heart.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. It's a common thread I hear when people go through massive change, to surround themselves with the right folks.
It's crucial.
Did you have to shed some
Yeah.
friendships?
Yeah.
Yep.
I talk about it.
And how did that feel? Because I
Yeah.
know I even to this day, I've recently shed some friendships as I continue to grow, and it hurts. And
Yeah.
there's always that contemplation of like, is it my fault? Or have you ever been challenged with kind of those thoughts of like, could I have done more? But and then I often realize months later, there was nothing I could have ever done,
Facts.
right? But still, in
Yeah.
those moments,
Yeah.
like in those moments, right? It's like
Facts.
it still feels like that
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. I think so. I think the relationships that I had to share, and I talked about this in my book because I made this parallel between like
Let's get the plug. What's the book?
the book
name?
is Perseverance Through Severe Dysfunction: Breaking the Curse of Intergenerational Trauma as a Black Man in America.
Let's go.
So Perseverance
Wow.
Through Severe Dysfunction is PTSD. And I talk about the traumas and my PTSD, which I later found out is complex PTSD. I talk about the parallel, or like the similarity between like having a dog. I got a puppy right around the time that I was having some mental health issues, and that just felt like the thing to do. And it was a blessing. She is a blessing. Shout out to Rosie. But for the first 6 months of her life, she didn't shed. I was like, oh, this is great. Like, got a dog that didn't shed. But then that next day, she's shedding all over the place. And like what that meant, what that signified to me is like, in order to grow, sometimes you have to shed. And you have to shed old thought patterns, old beliefs, and
Yeah.
people at times. And not that I don't think that anything is permanent, but two big relationships were my parents, and realizing that their impact on my heart was too detrimental to my overall well-being at the time, and with everything that was going on. And so I had to have some really serious conversations with them about what that impact was. And I think in society where the mother and the father are these nurturers and these providers and things, like, not everybody's story is like that. And sometimes the nurturer is also the monster, and the provider is also the one who's taking from you. And I had to be real about what my experience was, despite what society's may have been, and own that and honor the relationships for the good that they were, but then also where they, impacted me in a negative way, and weighing those two, and realizing that, for me and my sanity, that I had to, put up some boundaries there.
Have some conversations.
Some deep ones.
Some that hurt.
Yeah, that still hurt.
How scared were you to have those conversations?
Terrified. I think because I speak a lot now, and it seems like it's very natural and easy, but I grew up not talking. I grew up biting my tongue and selective mute at times, because it was too terrifying of what the response was going to be. And getting to a place where I felt empowered enough to even speak up and vocalize my frustrations and where I was It was the scariest thing
I
ever.
can imagine.
But
Some of those hard conversations when when the relationship's that close,
yeah,
mom, dad,
yeah,
brother,
oh
sister,
yeah,
supporter, grandma,
mm-hmm,
whatever, whoever it is in the
yeah,
household, there's guilt sometimes with those
for sure,
conversations. Like,
for sure.
am I really addressing this when they did put food on the
Mm-hmm,
table at some point,
mm-hmm,
right? Like, I don't know about you, but when
yep,
I've had to have those conversations, I've almost found all the reasons for me to be ignorant and
yes,
like,
yeah,
wow, I'm being an asshole. But the reality was this one thing was taking over all that good. So
yeah,
without having that conversation, I couldn't actually ever give the light on what was the good part
yeah, yeah,
because the dark was covering it based
yeah,
on this one thing that I had to have. And you're hitting a very important conversation, I think, for people listening, but important conversation for me to hear in the
mm,
moment right now.
mm,
I have to have a conversation August 17th
mm.
with my mom about a couple things. I'm
Wow,
actually flying back to Boston to have it in person.
wow,
And out of full transparency and just being real, the last time she was in Nashville, I pussied out. I didn't have that conversation. I had the perfect opportunity and I couldn't do it. I couldn't face it.
mm,
So I had to do some deep work on signifying the question appropriately.
mm-hmm,
The reason why I bowed out of that conversation in real time, it was right here actually, right where the house we're in right now is right out back. It's me and her out back. She was smoking a cigarette, and it was a perfect opportunity to have this. We were
yeah,
alone. My wife was right, um, but I didn't know how to ask the question appropriately.
mm-hmm,
And I backed off. So now I'm like, okay, this is the right way to ask it. This is respectful. There's no negative connotation. I've asked someone what their thoughts are. I've talked through the situation with someone, not therapists, but folks that have had deep conversations
yeah,
similar, had to go to their parents and discuss something that was masking
yeah,
my life and my heart and how I feel. So
mm,
this is very real in the
wow,
moment as we're talking through this for
wow,
me.
yeah. I
Um,
appreciate you sharing that.
yeah, and I'll tell you what it is. It's about my dad killing himself. I've never had the conversation with my mom. It was he was diabetic,
Mm,
but I know that he took his life,
mm,
and me and my mom have never talked about that.
mm.
So this
Wow,
is heavy, and
yeah,
and this happened 10 years ago.
wow. No, that's
So
really heavy.
think about, as we're all need, like this podcast isn't about Jim. This podcast isn't about, the triumphs of what you're going through. He just brought something up that is going to help me. Like
Mm,
you've just empowered me to go have this
mm,
conversation, like
mm.
just to see where you're at and to see that smile, that Reggie smile,
Oh man,
So
yeah.
by doing this stuff, yeah, it's for the listeners, but I'm reaping the reward today, man. So thank you, thank you,
I appreciate that, and
because it was on my mind this morning
wow.
because I was looking at flights.
Mm,
I booked the flight, but I was looking at dates, making sure everything was okay, communicating with my wife, all
mm.
that. So this actually I was thinking about today when I woke up.
Wow, wow, wow. The universe makes no mistakes.
So back to you.
No,
I
the
don't want this to
universe.
be
No,
my show,
this
but
is it is though, and I think that is important for the audience and anyone to understand. Like when I open it up, like it's about how it lands on other people's hearts. I didn't know that about you. I
yeah,
didn't know that you were that was gonna impact you in that way, and I truly appreciate you for sharing that, and I also want to extend grace to you for not having that conversation because there are reasons that didn't happen at that time.
yeah,
Right? Maybe there's a past experience where that conversation, where you wanted to have a similar conversation, or probably not as grave conversation, but the walls didn't open up in the way that you wanted them to.
yeah.
And so that you're building
And
the
that
courage.
vernacular I was using was
Yeah.
like way too aggressive.
Yeah.
Like I was going to be
Mm.
like, Dad killed himself. You
Mm.
didn't tell me.
Yeah.
Rather than now, it's like, hey, I'm aware that my father took his life.
Yeah.
And I wholeheartedly believe that based on what you say or don't say.
Wow.
I need to know if you know that. And if
Wow.
you did know that for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if you didn't, I need you to tell me the truth.
Right.
Because then we need to have another conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you did, I'm not mad. I just need you to say you did it to protect me, which
Yeah.
in turn, I don't agree with.
Yeah.
But I understand.
But you can understand that.
But I can understand that.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful.
And that is a piece of hatred that I have right now is stuck on me, and it's I don't want to live life and navigate through that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Similar to probably how you felt with your parents, and I don't know all the details, but I'm sure there was some kind of event or something that you needed to address.
Absolutely.
And I think it can be a plethora of things.
Tons,
It doesn't need to be your dad, your mom lying to you about your dad's death. It doesn't need to be that heavy.
Right, it doesn't.
And I know that's fucking heavy for everybody listening. And I know that's heavy for you. I just dropped it on you. But as you can see, I've done some work around this, so I'm not teary-eyed and I can talk about it, but I still know that I should have had this conversation earlier, but I was running from it. So it's definitely a learning lesson for me as I, build deeper relationships and we're getting older, right? Those things happen, negative things happen. You have to address these conversations.
You got to, because they live inside you. They live inside you. And like I said, my body and my mind was screaming at me. And I'm sure there's parts of you that have been screaming at you since the moment you got the knowledge that you have now. And so I just want to say I'm going to be with you on that 17th. I'll probably be here in Nashville. No, I don't know where I'll be, but I'll be with you in
Appreciate
spirit.
That, brother.
And lifting you up in that conversation, because I know it won't be an easy one.
Of course. Thank you, man.
Definitely.
Thank you.
For real.
So back to you, brother. So you had the conversation you with your parents, right?
And these were separate conversations. These were These are totally separate events, right? So my mom is the one who raised me, and my dad spent most of my childhood from like 8 to 17 in prison, and they were never married, and so like I barely even knew him before that.
Yeah.
But my mom, I think it was a matter of just emotional disconnect with where we had been for a decade or more.
Yeah.
And it started to boil up in ways that were just I could feel the insides of me like pumping toxins, like with the hearing her voice, seeing her face, like my heart beat pain.
Wow.
My heartbeat. This is real.
Yeah.
And
I can feel it. I just got full body chills, man.
And it was a matter of, being honest with her for once. That was like going up and slapping a bear in the face. Like, it's something on the other side of that. And I never wanted to feel that, but it was like, all right, if I don't slap this bear in the face, like I'm just gonna die here.
It's gonna eat me.
It's gonna eat me. And
what a comparison right there. Like I'm visualizing that. Like, yeah, you're right. That's how it feels, though. Yeah. At least that's how it feels with me.
And so, And so, like, I just had to. And the thing with that was, it wasn't just one event. It was lifetime of things that had been suppressed and pushed down. And, my mom had me at a very young age. And I think she was 14 years old when she had me.
Wow.
And there's courage there. There is love there. But at the same time, having a kid at 14 signifies that there's other stuff there. There's pain there too. Yeah. And that pain was projected out onto me and onto the world, and it hurt. It hurt me in a way that I really couldn't put up with any longer. And I had to let her know.
Yeah.
I had to let her know. And, it's been 5 years and I still haven't had a conversation with her since then. But I made sure that the last time I talked to her that I was going to, help me go get help for myself. I think that's important. We have to help ourselves before we can help anybody else. And, you put your mask on first before you put on the babies or the elderly persons.
Yep.
And then I hope that she would do the same. And I love you. And, the door is still open, right? And so I think anybody's relationship with their mom, whether it's as much tension there as it is in my situation, or a little bit or whatever it may be, you long for that. I think that's a human desire, is to have that connection with your mom.
Of course.
And it's always a soft spot. It's always tremendous love and grace. I make sure that I extend that to her, because I understand that she did the best she could with what she was dealt, and I can't I can understand that, but it doesn't mean I have to tolerate that.
I was just going to say, you
Yeah.
can acknowledge it and become hyper aware around it, extend grace, but there's a time where you're an adult at this point.
Yeah.
You make that decision. And
Absolutely.
at this point, you've got to own that decision.
Absolutely.
And you have.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
impressive. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm
I
proud of you,
appreciate
man.
that.
That's a big thing to do,
I appreciate that.
you know?
Yeah.
And it sounds like you've done it with elegance.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's been one of the hallmarks of just being one. I mean, the bear was right there.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot of tiptoeing around the bear for a really long time. And that came with pleasing the bear, appeasing the bear, and not showing the anger in what I was actually feeling at the time. And I think the anger has come out. Like, I think it's healthy to express anger, but anger is a secondary emotion. Like, it's not going to be the first thing that you feel. It's going to be grief. It's going to be sadness. It's going to be fear. I feared it, and I had grief around what relationship could have been, and it came out as anger. Mm-hmm. But that anger doesn't last forever. Like, true anger,
it's temporary.
It 90 seconds and anger is gone. But you're holding on to what you think you should be feeling, which is anger, but it's really grief. Mm-hmm. It's grief that I don't have this relationship with my mom. When I look up on Mother's Day and I see all these posts, it's like, let me get off this app, you know? And so, yeah, it's hard, but it's necessary. And I think many things that in life, many hard things in life are necessary, and vice versa. And so you can choose the hard of being in that relationship and knowing that it's toxic, and knowing that every time your heart beat, it's pumping out toxins. Or you can choose the heart of standing up for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what I had to do.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
You got my brain going, man. I'm thinking from two lenses, just to share with everybody listening. I'm thinking from the lens of course, your situation, but in the lens of my situation. And then also, how do I show up for my daughter today and my soon-to-be son? And what kind of came to my mind is like, you know, and I'm going to relate it to business because I love business, but like we go and we ask our customers what they think. Mm-hmm. We ask them to write reviews.
Yep.
When something's wrong, we take that opportunity and we try to and we try to build that relationship so there's still trust there. And how we handled something we've done wrong is how we typically make raving fans in business.
Yes.
Right? If you do it the right way.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. I've called the customer service and they're like, I can't help you. And I'm like, no raving fan here. See you never. But the reality is like, why don't we do that and check in with our spouse, with our kids, with our parents, you know, and give the opportunity. And I think the hardest thing, and I mean, communication is the hardest thing. We all talk about communication.
It's hard.
But we don't practice it. We don't read books on it. We don't learn about it. And it's literally the key to getting anything we want.
Yeah.
Right? Like leverage, positioning, like we can go into all those terms, but it all is the fundamental thought and understanding of the concept of communication.
Yes.
So where I'm going with this all to bring it back is, you know, how can we communicate to those people in our personal life similar to get the feedback we would get from a customer in our business life? Yeah. And my thought process through this was like, hey, the question for my daughter is, hey, do you still believe I'm helping you in the highest way possible?
Wow.
Like, that's the first thing that came to my mind was I need to start asking her that. Now, of course, she's 1.5.
Right.
I can't yet, but like, that's a mental note of, wow, these communication, accountability meetings with my wife are soon going to be a similar thing with my child.
Yes.
You know, and
it's so crucial. And
I know what it's done to our marriage if we don't have those meetings. And we a lot was going on a few months and we skipped them, right? So we felt that like, I don't really know what's going on and you got this. And we do a lot, right? She owns a business. I own a business. I speak. I travel. I sell real estate, right? We both got TEDx talks coming up September. You know, so like there's just a lot going on. And I think we need to get that feedback and review almost from everybody we love.
Yes.
From everybody we have a deep human connection we care for.
Absolutely.
Man, I got some stuff to do.
I think
after this conversation.
I don't think we can truly know ourselves fully without having those conversations with other people. Because we view ourselves in the light that we view it from our perspective with our two eyes in our shoes, but that's not our whole self. we are like people perceive us to be a certain way, and that's a part of who we are.
Yeah.
Like if you go around in the world and think you're just this noble man and this great guy, and everybody around you thinks you're an asshole, you're an asshole.
Yeah.
And so the perception is the reality in that case. And so I think it's crucial to have those conversations, the accountability, the check-ins, and I think communication. We say communication is key, and I think healthy communication is key. And then even further than that, like one of the most important communications is conflict resolution.
Yeah.
And conflict can be big or conflict can be small, right? But the disagreement around the door being closed or the door being open, your shoes over here or shoes over there, is going to set the tone for, okay, on this weekend we were supposed to be here, but you told me you were, and like the bigger things that come up in life.
Yep.
And if those small conflicts,
it's the work before the work.
Yeah, if those small conflicts are not handled healthily, then the big ones won't be either.
Yep.
And then that's when you get the stalemate. That's when you get the inability to go make that conversation happen.
It's interesting too, because I think in so many times, and I can think back in my life where I've been aware. I pride myself in having pretty good hyper awareness. I've been aware and I've not addressed it. I've been aware and I've not taken the right step. I've been aware and I've not asked the question, right? And like, what always comes back to me and where I'm at today and what I've learned, and I'd love your opinion on this, has been, well, if I am in a conflict, if I am going to have a tough conversation, how do I ask questions and be compassionate around my curiosity rather than make assumptions and talk about my feelings? So like, let me learn and acquire information rather than attack and address. And whenever I've done that, I learned something that almost immediately has me rethinking, taking a step back, repositioning.
Yeah.
And I ask those questions not from like a jerk perspective or like an ignorance, right? Because like you can ask questions and it's like you're actually
pointing the finger.
You're pushing buttons. You're pushing, right? Like I'm doing out of compassion. Like,
Right.
Hey, you said this to me. Did something happen in the last couple days that's triggered that? Rather than like, hey, you said this to me. What the fuck's up with that?
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
Because if I learn like, oh, like, and the other day I had a real estate deal that was there was just a lot going on.
Right.
And I was like, hey, I just want to let you know. So now I'm starting to take the proactive approach. Like, I am a little edgy right now. I'm stressed out. Like, I can feel blood pressure rise, and there's a lot of things going on, and a lot of people riding on this thing. So I'm feeling the pressure. Just want to let you know. I've kind of taken the proactive approach just to reduce, because life, like, she's maybe feeding my daughter when this is happening and not have the perspective.
Right.
I've got to be in tune with some of that too and give people grace.
Definitely.
So if I can lead proactively, I hope that will help in the long run.
Definitely. I think there is a total shift in the two examples that you gave, and the first one was starting with the word you. Right, if you lead with you, now it feels accusatory. Now it feels like that's a place of blame for that other person versus, and I think it's okay to say I feel and I felt, and from my perspective this, and then ending that with an open-ended question to hear what is on the other side of that.
Yes,
and then most importantly, I think mindfulness is something I practice all the time, but mindful of where your thoughts are, but mainly where your body is. And so if the response that you're getting is going to like create fire in your chest, or you feel sweat in your palms, like to sit with that and not respond with that.
Yep.
Because the movie Inside Out, right? You got the angry dude, and he's like like you don't want that to be the first thing that comes off. Sit with it and feel it and
feel those emotions.
Why do I feel like I'm being attacked right now when I just said how I feel? And it could be a place where you are being attacked.
Yep.
Right? Or it could be a place where you feel like you're being attacked, and that's not truly the case. And so understanding what you're feeling at that time instead of responding immediately or reacting, rather.
Reacting.
Yeah, you react, and that's where it's just there's headbutting, and no true resolution comes from that. But if you can sit, like I do this all the time because I grew up.
This is the hardest thing for me that you're describing.
It's so hard.
The hardest thing for me to
It's
do.
so hard.
Because my brain moves so fast. And I am like I'm moving, right?
Yeah.
Like so I actually have to like be hyper aware of this and be like, it's okay to not immediately respond either.
It's better.
Like it's to better. Think through and do your like you see my eyes, right? Like because this is I'm like when I'm thinking through, I'm like I'm focusing not on what I'm looking at, but in my brain. And I those things have actually allowed me to process, and it's one of the best negotiation skills that I've ever used as well.
Yeah. Definitely.
I mean, I've done a deal in business where I'm just thinking through because I was pissed, and that person went down 10 grand before I could respond.
Yeah. You're trying to cool down.
And I'm like, oh, now I'm happy. Where are we signing this bad boy? Like, I didn't even say a word, and I just negotiated 10 grand.
Yeah, definitely.
When that happened, man, I was like,
yes,
Jim, you need to chill.
Yeah, I think that's so good. I love that. I think like if you put your feet on the ground, and then in that moment you feel that, and you just take a deep breath, like. And I think like a true, mindful, I don't want to get into like just like meditation or a Buddhist monk, right? Will remember the moment that the word was said and whether their breath was an inhale or an exhale at that moment, right? When I got mad, I was inhaling, right? If you can be that mindful of the present moment of where your body is and where your feet are, bringing your focus where your feet are and just sitting in that. And then if you've ever read a book and you take notes, right, there's a chapter that you're going to read and you're like, man, I got to close this book and sit down and like really think about that. Treat that when your body's responding. Treat that the same way as when your body's responding. Like, okay, like this just overwhelmed my whole system in the conversation. Overwhelmed my whole system. I respect what you just said and I want time to process that. It may be 5 seconds while I sit here and think. Can you have the patience to sit here with me while I think? Because what you just said was that important to me. Or it may be, I need to sleep on that. I may need 3 sleeps on that or however much, but we're going to come back to that. So let me process
framing
that.
The situation in a way where the output is what you need.
Yeah. And it's giving respect to that other person.
In a way that makes them feel heard, seen, and felt, and acknowledged.
Absolutely,
it's human connection.
Yeah.
That's
what we're working on.
In a high intense situation, in a high frequency, a lot of energy. And yet you're using tactics to build deep human connection.
Absolutely, and you practice.
I love it. I love it. Yeah,
and you practice that over time, and you get better at it. Right? So it took you a month to respond the first time. Now it takes you 2 weeks. Now it takes you 2 days. Now it takes you an hour. Now you are able to sit there within 10 seconds and come up with your response. And so it's about working that muscle. You got to work that muscle. It's the same. Like we treat our physical bodies like we treat our mental bodies, and things will start to change.
Yep, I love it. I started learning about positive intelligence, so similar to this, and realized that like I need to exercise the mental muscle.
Yes.
And the crazy thing is it's not as easy as just going to the gym and picking up iron if you want to pump weights, because a lot of the mental muscle is situational. So what I've started to learn is prepare. So when I only have a couple of these instances where this pops up, right? Because it's not like I'm in really high conflict conversations 7 times a day.
Right.
Thankfully. right? Like, most of the conversations, there's a common value add or there's a goal that we're trying to get to, and most of the people I do business with, we all want to win. And that's our negotiation style in a lot of those cases. But in some of those personal relationships, I think through and I'm like, wow, I need to prepare and work on this and go through and visualize scenarios that may have happened in the past or that could happen and work through it in that real time. Because it's not like I've got all these reps. It's not like I'm going to Conflict University at 2:00 today right? And from 2 to 6, me and Reggie are getting down on some conflict conversations, you know? But think about it, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the truth, and so that preparation and working through that is key because those reps you get in real time may not be a million reps this year.
Yeah.
And man, if you got a million of those coming at you, like you're probably happy like me. Like what? Send us a message because we want. We want.
We wanna
I'm
know.
sure Reggie and I would love to chat with you.
Yeah.
Just how can we get through this?
Definitely.
How can we change that from
Definitely.
reduce that number? But have you been in a situation in your life where you've respectfully asked for that time and maybe that person didn't receive it well?
Oh yeah.
Talk to us about that because I know when I've paused, I've felt like this person's a heavy hitter and they're gonna come at me and they're aggressive, and I actually haven't had someone say, oh, "I need a decision right now," or "What do you need?" I've had someone joke like, "Oh, you need a day," and I felt the pressure because they were like, "You're basically how they said it was."
Yeah.
I perceived it as you're a fucking idiot if you can't make this decision in the next 24 hours.
Right.
Which it wasn't that big of a decision, but
It's
the
never that
joke
big of
was
a decision.
leveraged to make me feel bad about if I did take that time.
Right.
How do you navigate that?
I think that's where I want to try to give grace first. I always want to try to give grace and give people the benefit of the doubt, depending on the scenario or the relationship or whatever's happening. And so there may be something from their past that makes them respond in that way that I want to give grace to. But then I come back to self-love and self-compassion and self-respect. And so if time is what I need and time is not harming anyone else in this scenario and you don't want to give me that, you're not showing me respect. Well, I have a tremendous amount of self-respect. And so that means that we're at a disconnect.
Yeah.
And we are not aligned in a way that makes the future of whatever this is, whether it's a business deal, whether it's a personal relationship or, whatever, I don't see it happening in the future.
Yeah.
And so I think that is where I come
You're
from.
protecting yourself against your future self in this similar scenario that if it didn't go from a level of respect that you have for yourself, then you're not going to get back into those situations.
No, and you're constantly modeling and setting the expectations for how people are going to treat you in the future. And so if they push over that boundary and disrespect you, even if it's little, then the next time it may be a little bit more and a little bit more, and you end up at the
take an inch, take a mile.
Yeah, and you're at the 11th hour wondering,
give an inch, take a mile. Yeah.
How am I in this relationship, in this partnership with this person? They treat me like this. Well, it didn't happen overnight, right? It was these little bitty micro ways of getting to that point, and so it's about recognizing that on the front end and staying true and not settling for less respect than you deserve.
How do you have the confidence to do that? Or how did you build it? Yeah.
A lot of therapy, honestly. Because I think my default has been to people like I it's kind of a joke, but it's kind of true. But I say my personality and who I have shown up in the world has been a complete trauma response of people pleasing, of perfectionism, of those things, because that's what kept me safe as a child. And I say safe, not that I was always at the harm of like dying, but sometimes, but more so emotionally safe.
Yeah.
Right. And that threat to your emotional body is similar to a threat of like you're going to die and you respond in a way. And so my way, it was people please, appease and try to be as good as perfect, and that's going to keep me safe. And so I think it has come to a place of understanding that I don't need those protective mechanisms anymore. And people pleasing, while I'm pleasing other people, I'm creating conflict in myself.
I was going to say internally it's hurting you.
Killing me.
Yeah. Helping them and hurting you.
Yeah. And
I think
that's
where
a
I've
true
come
level of self-disrespect.
That hits. I call it a win-win situation. Mm-hmm. Everything I want to do is a win-win. Mm-hmm. And it used to be an L for me and a W for you in a lot of things. And I've cut that because here's the thing. if we're not gonna both win, then we just don't align. Like
Right.
if you wanna bend me over, if you wanna take me over the coals, if you fuck Jim Morris, like I'm gonna get him.
Yeah. No.
Dude, that's awful.
Yeah, it's
For
terrible.
anybody.
Yeah.
Like unless I've hurt you and this is a revenge play, like
Right.
I probably deserve it if I hurt someone, but like no, not in these cases. So why is it a you versus me? Why isn't it an us together?
Yeah.
Right? And when you're winning and I'm winning, dude, let's do more of it.
Yes. Yes.
So the repetition increases, the scale of the relationship increases,
Yep.
the scale of the opportunity, because we're both winning and we both want to keep feeling this way and doing things that we both win at. Like, I always think back to like when I first moved here and the JW opened, and I was like, man, all I want to do is like I want to spend 25K, rent out the whole place for my top 20 friends and family, and like pay for everybody, and like just laugh as we go down the elevator.
Yeah.
Because everybody in this room, we've done this together and we've been winning, so this is my give back. Like, it was never I want to go win and make all this money to do this. It was
Right.
always I want to do it with the
Collectively.
people, and like this venue just this is me. Like, I want to look over the city.
Yeah.
I don't even want bartenders. Like, I just want to just do whatever we want.
Yeah.
Have them serve food.
That's beautiful.
Like, and it's not, and I'll do it,
Yeah.
but it's not doing it to brag. It's not like this is something that I'm going to do and there's not going to be no cameras. Like, I'm doing it just to live in the present
Yeah.
and to say thank you to the people that we've won together.
Yeah.
And now I can drop 25K and
Yeah.
not give a shit,
Right.
because financially I'm okay to do that.
Yeah.
And it's worth it to me.
Yeah.
I don't want an ROI on that.
Good.
I want
Yeah.
to enjoy it.
Yeah. It's
Because everybody
appreciation.
deserves it, not just Jim,
Right.
not just one person. The people are in that room specifically.
Yeah.
I want to break bread with the people that we've been winning together with.
That's beautiful. It reminds me of something like Michael Vick said, because I think he was being interviewed and he was asked, you know, did you support this friend and that friend and all these different friends? He's like, I don't see it as supporting my friends. It's like, he's like, if you came up with somebody and you got millions of dollars and they're, you know, in a tiny 1-bedroom apartment, when you want them to celebrate with that with you, like I had a lottery ticket because I could run and I could move and I can do all these things, but you know, they were in the trenches with me.
Yeah.
And it's not that they didn't work hard and I did. It's like we were all working hard. It's just somebody got an opportunity and they did it. And so, like, I mean, bringing people up collectively, and I think that's something that's super important to me. Is like I think about even when I see, like, again, thinking about success in the traditional sense, if you get to the top of the mountain and you're all alone, that's not success.
I've
That's
been there,
not
dude. It's lonely.
success.
It sucks.
It's so sad.
Sucks. It's sad. It's sad.
It's really sad. And so if that means I'm going to get up here and then I'm going to employ somebody from over here, or I'm going to get up here and then you're going to do my videography and I'm going to get up here. And like, so we all had a part in this. Like you
Yes.
said, like we all had a part in it, and we're going to celebrate when we get at the top of the JW and kick
That's
it.
it.
Like, let's go.
That's it. That's it. Well, and I always think through, like, you know, relationships for me, reason why I talk about human connection and all this isn't just because I like networking and I've met great people and we've done great deals. It's actually the opposite. It's because whenever I was in my darkest days, someone
Yeah.
was there to pull me out.
Facts.
And whenever I'm on the highest mountain and everything's rocking and rolling and I've had 3 months of highest revenues and marriage is great, kids are happy, I've created memorable experiences with my family, which that's success for me. It's not a green piece of paper, it's what I do with it, those memorable experiences. Like that for me, those situations, dude, that's me winning. That's me at the top. But the reality of it is like you said, if I'm up on that mountain going, wow, this is awesome, and there's no one there, it sucks.
It's empty.
It's empty.
It is empty.
So in my darkest days and the days with the most light, it's someone.
Somebody's around.
Not something.
Yeah.
Not a product.
Yeah.
Not a service.
Right.
And we can get into it. Well, Jim, what if they made you $1 million and it was, well, I guarantee you it wasn't an AI chatbot that made me that $1 million, right? There had to be some type of conversation.
Right.
there had to be some type of communication. We're not there yet. I think we're going there. I think it will be. You may not ever talk to a human and buy something that changes your life. I just don't think we're there yet.
No, we're
and
not.
I don't think we're going to just put AI over human connection.
Yeah.
I think that there's going to be
as I was gonna say, even if you
a
do
rise
get to that point,
and a reality. I call
you're
it
gonna need
a rise and a reality.
Hey, I like that. I like that.
Just like the internet, just like social media.
Yes. Oh yeah.
There was a rise.
It's a
where it was
correction.
awesome.
It's a correction in the market.
And then there was a reality where it was like, wow, this is fucking everybody up.
Yep.
And it's fucking me up.
It is.
And this is the reality.
It is. There'll be a documentary on it. They're already preparing it. So yeah, no, that's true. I think it's always gonna come down to the human connection. It's always going to come down to the human connection. And I think like just experiencing this moment with you and having you share vulnerability, me sharing vulnerability, like that is what we connect on. We're not going to connect on, you know, the superficial things and like yes, that'll bring us in a room together and that we could go and do business together. But like after that transaction is done, after that, like if we don't have true, genuine connection and deep conversation, it's not gonna last.
Yep.
And so if we want to get to the mountaintop together collectively, like we gotta share some of that with each other.
Let's go, man.
Yeah.
I'm with you, brother.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
What a good episode, dude.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining me today, man.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a great conversation. I'm excited to do this more.
Oh yeah, I'm excited and I can't wait to hear your talk at TEDx Old Hickory. Yeah, this is gonna be fun, man.
Same for you,
We're
brother.
We're gonna have a good time.
Let's go. Thanks for being here, man.
Yes, thank you.